I've been to a lot of museums, and most of this is review for me. I knew about most of this history, including what the Japanese did to the Chinese in terms of this Unit 731. But when you're in the museum and you see the pictures, and you see the pictures of what they actually did to human beings, it's hard to believe that people could do that to each other. Hello everyone, Jason Smith here, host of the Bridge Podcast. You know I love China, you know I love history, so we're going to learn a little bit about Chinese history today. In 1931, on 9/18, the Japanese set off a small explosive device near the railroad tracks and tried to blame China. Using this as an excuse, Imperial Japan began invading much of northern China. And this begins the War of Resistance against Japanese imperial aggression here in China. Let's go learn more. Interesting. Here they call it the September 18th incident. And when I was taught about this event in U.S. history, it's referred to as the Mukden incident. At the entrance, they put railroad tracks that you need to cross over in order to pass into the museum. And then this path right here resembles a railway track. And the reason this is important is because Imperial Japan tried to blame China for an incident that it set up. Japanese troops set explosives under Japanese rail lines so that Japanese troops could then turn and blame China. China had nothing to do with the incident at all. It was a false flag event which allowed Japan to invade much of northern China. So in the second half of the museum, what they call Chapter 2, it outlines the resistance, or the War of Resistance against Japanese fascist aggression that China undertook. And at the very end, it starts to showcase how the West became an ally of China. At this point in the museum, they begin outlining how many of the Japanese soldiers, generals, and leaders were put on trial for crimes against humanity as part of trials that were going on all over the world to hold fascists accountable. Of course, as the world knows, China and many other nations around the world triumphed over Japanese, German, and Italian fascism in 1945, which brought about the rejuvenation of the Chinese nation, which is ongoing to this day. A final part of the museum is that people should not forget this part of history, and they should not allow the Japanese government to prutify what the Japanese did to China and to other people of other Asian nations as well. And that's part of the reason that this museum is here, to help people not forget the history that got us here.